10 plus chapters in, and the 74th Hunger Games are just now beginning. Welcome back to my channel where we are doing a chapter by chapter close reading of the Hunger Games. We are on chapter 11. If you are new here, hi, hello, I write and talk about books under the name Gemma Tate, and we are doing a close rereading of the Hunger Games with all of the information that we have from Sunrise on the Reaping and Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes in a way that I sincerely hope makes every English teacher I've ever had proud of me. As I just mentioned, we are on chapter 11. That is page 148 in my copy. Let's get into it. First things first, this chapter is such a masterclass from Suzanne Collins in setting the stage, in telling us so much without having to tell us. It's such a masterclass in show don't tell about how the Capitol thinks and operates, and also how Katniss sees and understands and reacts to the circumstances around her. It's such an incredible job of both world building and character development in really not that many pages. This is not a very long chapter. This opens with our tributes having just risen up through the tubes, shafts, and now they're placed equidistant around a cornucopia, which Katniss describes as a giant golden horn shaped like a cone with a curved tail, the mouth of which is at least 20 feet high, spilling over with the things that will give us life here in the arena. I want to be so clear about something. I've got a degree in art history. I've looked at a lot of cornucopias and a lot of classical paintings. It's such classic intentional imagery. A cornucopia is a symbol of abundance. The tributes are here in the arena and also in their own districts back home, operating in a scenario of forced scarcity. A cornucopia, which traditionally has always symbolized togetherness and abundance and sharing and having enough, becomes the symbol of what to fight over because every resource in it is scarce. It is meant to separate the tributes, to give them a reason to engage in the bloodbath. It's so twisted, and it tells us so much about the way that the Capitol uses abundance, and we can look at the tesserae also as abundance, their gift to the poor, as yet another example of forced scarcity. The districts are not necessarily just starving because there's famine and resources are scarce. Resources are scarce because the Capitol is taking them away. Like, that's the scenario that we are dealing with. Here in the arena, the cornucopia that symbolizes abundance is in reality a symbol of anything but. Speaking of a bloodbath, you guys already know this. My biggest gripe with the movie version of A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is that there is a bloodbath scene where in the book there isn't one, and that is legitimately important. Only 10 years into the Hunger Games, the kids don't enter an arena and understand that they are supposed to fight to the death. Like, that's not their immediate instinctive reaction because that is not a natural element of the human condition. Humans don't see each other in an enclosed space and go, yeah, let's fight to the death. Like, those are not natural circumstances. Those are forced circumstances. It's not natural behavior. It is forced behavior. The kids in the 10th Hunger Games sort of stand around really awkwardly because they understand what they are supposed to do, but it is not their natural instinct to engage in it. 64 years later, through televised broadcasts that are mandatory watching for everybody in the districts, with reruns being the only programming available at a certain point, Katniss and the other 23 tributes around the cornucopia are very well conditioned into this, and the bloodbath begins almost immediately. More on that in a second, because the chapter does not open with the bloodbath. The chapter opens with Katniss analyzing the circumstances around her. She goes, okay, to the one side, there's a steep downward slope. It's either going to be like a really big hill or a cliff. She goes, to my right, there's a lake. Okay, cool. Lake means water. To her left and to her back, there are sparse piney woods. Those remind her of home. She understands immediately that's where Haymitch would want her to go. And she's thinking about Haymitch's advice here. Just clear out, put as much distance as you can between yourselves and the others, and find a source of water. Now, it's really hard to think about these elements of Haymitch's advice without also thinking about the advice that Haymitch received in the 50th Hunger Games, in the Quarter Quell, second Quarter Quell, which, yeah, included finding water and staying alive, but was also about sticking with your district partner. And Katniss is in a scenario here where she does not believe that she can stick with her district partner because Peeta has just asked to be trained separately. Peeta is acting separately from Katniss, but he's also just confessed his undying love for her. She's not in like a good or clear headspace. But the thing that is catching Katniss's eye immediately in this chapter is not Peeta. It's a silver sheath of arrows and a bow, already strung, just waiting to be engaged. And she thinks, that's mine. It's meant for me. And she starts thinking about her own skills. I'm fast. I can sprint faster than any of the other girls in our school, although a couple can beat me in distance races. But this 40-yard length, this is what I'm built for. I know I can get it. I know I can reach it first. But then the question is, how quickly can I get out of there? Katniss is doing a shockingly good risk assessment here because our girl is practiced at staying alive despite the odds literally never having been in her favor. Except this is the thing. This is the thing. Katniss is the girl who scored an 11 in training and no one knows how she did it. I don't think that people give enough thought to just how terrifying Katniss must have been to every other tribute in the arena, because she is athletic, she is underfed, she's malnourished, but she's muscled. She's scored an 11 in training, and the first thing that she locks eyes on is a weapon that requires training and expertise to learn how to use. It's not, a club. It's not something with like a sharp edge that you can just stab into somebody. It's a bow and arrow that takes like specific muscular development. Becoming an archer over the course of a long period of time can literally change the shape of your skeleton. And that's what Katniss fixates on and goes, yeah, that's mine. But Peeta is the first person to notice that that's what Katniss is fixating on. And Katniss can already tell. He's looking at her and he shakes his head. And that is just enough of a distraction that the gong rings and Katniss has missed her chance, because those extra couple of seconds that she has lost by not being ready and on the mark, it's confused her mind. She doesn't know what direction to run in. And so she just lunges forward, scoops up a sheet of plastic, it's basically a tarp, and a loaf of bread. And loaf of bread, I want to point out, loaf of bread, the first thing that she picks up is an element of the story that we already know and understand is supposed to remind us of Peeta. When we see bread in this story, we should think boy with the bread. She also grabs a bright orange backpack, which, again, orange. You've heard me talk about it before. Orange in these books is literally always a sign of hope. Often it's a sign of rebellion. It's the orange under Lenore Dove's fingernails. It's Peeta's favorite color. Orange and gold are our symbols of rebellion and allyship. Katniss grabs literally the two things directly in front of her that symbolize Peeta and the rebellion. And Katniss is stuck engaging in the bloodbath because this is what every tribute around the cornucopia has been conditioned into. This chapter frames the careers as the enemy. Katniss also understands instinctively that every other person around the cornucopia is in the same scenario as she is. Even this early on, she is beginning to understand Haymitch's instruction that shows up repeatedly. Remember who the real enemy is. The real enemy is the Capitol, who has placed these children in a scenario where they have to fight to the death so that only one survives, not the children who are also engaged in that fight. Anyway, all of that aside, Katniss still sees the girl from District 2, and all of the general fear that she has been feeling condenses into immediate fear of this girl, who Katniss understands is a predator who might kill her in seconds. And adrenaline shoots through her. She slings the backpack over one shoulder. She runs full speed for the woods. And Clove throws a knife. Clove is the girl from District 2. Throws a knife. It lodges in the backpack. And now Katniss has a good serrated blade that will, in fact, be helpful to her later on. I just want to point out Katniss's risk assessment here of what can I grab? I refuse to leave with nothing. I will not be empty-handed. Oh, that girl is a predator. I am prey. I am going to run. These are all things that Katniss has experienced before. Katniss has practiced running from a predator. She has practiced foraging in extremely risky scenarios with very, very limited time. She is built for survival in this arena in a way that nobody else really is, including the tributes who have been training for it their whole lives, the careers. Katniss even understands how to conserve energy, trying to get as far away as possible from the other tributes and from the bloodbath and the cornucopia, and also not exhausting herself in getting to cover and getting to the woods. She continues running until the woods have hidden her, and then she slows into a steady jog. She alternates between jogging and walking, and she's lost her bread during the struggle with the boy from District 9. Again, symbolism. She lost Peeta. She lost the bread. Peeta stands for a certain set of principles, even though, again, we'll talk about that. He sort of puts those aside for a moment at the end of this chapter. But the setting aside of this thought of engaging in the bloodbath and running for the woods instead, she loses the bread. Katniss has a moment here where she understands that Haymitch was actually giving her, pretty good advice. And she goes, okay, I sort of botched the first instruction that he gave me. Let's pay attention a little bit to the second thing that he said, which was look for water. And after Katniss has been in the woods for a little bit, she hears a noise, she pulls her knife, she thinks maybe she's gonna have to defend herself, maybe there is a predator coming tracking her down. But all she's done is startle a rabbit. And she just sort of whispers, good to see you. Which, again, this should make us think about Sunrise on the Reaping, / there's a scene in Sunrise on the Reaping that should make us think about this, which is Haymitch literally seeing a cute fluffy bunny rabbit thinking, that kind of reminds me of my girlfriend. Maybe it'll lead me to water. Katniss is looking for water, sees a cute little bunny rabbit and thinks, okay, bunny rabbits can live in the woods. I can eat bunny rabbits. Maybe I'm not going to die today. And Katniss proceeds down a hill, sort of into a valley. And she doesn't particularly like this. Valleys make her feel trapped. She wants to be up high, like in the woods around District 12, where she can see her enemies approaching. I do think that this is intentional. Our girl does not like being in a fishbowl. She's already in a space where everybody can see her. Everything that she's doing is being televised. There are cameras everywhere. Literally, the enemy can see her, but she can't see them. A little bit later, the cannons start going off, which signals to Katniss, and thus also to us, that the bloodbath is over. There's probably not going to be a whole lot more dying today, and the field is shrinking to a handful of tributes, a handful of players. And Katniss pauses and she starts counting how many cannons go off. 1, 2, 3, on and on until they reach 11. 11 dead in all. 13 left to play. And Katniss immediately thinks about Peeta. Has he lasted through the day? I'll know in a few hours when they project the dead's images in the sky for the rest of us to see. Katniss is struck, she is overwhelmed by the thought that Peeta might already be lost, blood white, collected, and in the process of being transported back to the capital to be cleaned up, redressed, and shipped in a simple wooden box back to District 12. And it occurs to her, maybe it's better if he's gone already. I won't end up with the unpleasant task of killing him. Katniss is already thinking like a predator. This is the thing. Katniss is so worried about everybody else coming after her. She doesn't even really understand the extent to which she is the threat to everyone else. And she opens up her little orange backpack and carefully lays out her provisions. She's got a thin black sleeping bag that reflects body heat. She's got a pack of crackers, a pack of dried beef strips, a bottle of iodine, a box of wooden matches, a small coil of wire, a pair of sunglasses, which we actually know are night vision glasses, and a half-gallon plastic bottle with a cap for carrying water, and it's bone dry. Before we get into the water of it all, let's talk about these exact supplies, because this tells us, again, something really interesting about how the capital operates. These are not goods that Katniss could easily have gotten back in District 12. Every single one of these is something that must have come from a different district, with the exception of maybe the matches. A black sleeping bag that reflects body heat. District 12 doesn't have the ability to make that. I don't remember which district does fashion. It makes the uniforms for the peacekeepers. I don't know, I need to go back and double check. A small coil of wire. That's District 3 for sure. The pair of sunglasses, we know the night vision glasses come from District 11 because Rue recognizes them immediately. The beef strips, that's going to be District 10 for livestock, the livestock half of agriculture. The pack of crackers, I don't remember which district does milled grain. Clearly I need to go back and look at my district maps. But my point here is that everything on that list is something that is exorbitantly expensive to get to someplace like District 12, because again, the capital is operating like the company in the company town equation. Anyway, let's talk about the water of it all, because as Katniss is filling up her pack again, it occurs to her, what if the lake is the only water source in the arena? That's a full day's journey away, and eventually we are going to be dragged there for a fight. And that's true, because Katniss is thinking like a game maker, like Gale told her to. We had a whole chapter breakdown just about that. But as Katniss is about to panic, she remembers, just like Haymitch, that fluffy little bunny rabbit, which also needs water in order to be alive. So Katniss just has to follow where a small little animal would go to find water, and then she'll be okay. And once again, Katniss spends the rest of this chapter showing us why and how she is so much better equipped to survive these specific circumstances than just about anybody else in the arena. We know that the training center teaches tributes how to set traps. We know that there's a little station for learning how to make snares, learning how to tie knots. Katniss spends a lot of time at that station in Catching Fire, and the instructor remembers her from the previous year because she also spends time there in this book. But that station, we also know, we were told just a couple of chapters ago, does not prepare you for unideal circumstances. Unideal, whatever. Does not teach you what to do when you don't have the perfect supplies and a large amount of time. Katniss has imperfect supplies, but she has supplies, and more importantly, again, she has practice. So what she does is she takes her wire, she sets 2 twitch-up snares in the brush, understanding that it is risky to be setting traps, but any source of food that she can find is a good idea. But she also understands that she is still actively being hunted down because it's still the first day of the games, so she walks for another 5 minutes before making camp. And she's smart enough to not camp on the ground, so she picks her tree very carefully. She sees a willow, not terribly tall, but set in a clump of other willows, offering concealment. She does not go under the willow, deep in a meadow. She climbs all the way up to find a vantage point, to be able to see all around her. This is a tree for survival, not a tree for rest, eternal or otherwise. And as it gets dark out, the capital seal shows up across the sky, which is a reminder here that this is an artificial arena. These are not actually natural circumstances. Everything in here has been engineered to be viewed. So even though Katniss is seeing safety in the woods, seeing safety in a lake or a stream that reads as familiar to her, we know and understand that it's still the capital. The sky being fake is just another reminder of that. And Katniss sort of starts ticking off the 11 dead tributes. Neither of the 2 from 12 are dead. That's Katniss and Peeta. Neither of the 2 from 11 are dead. That's Thresh and Rue. And she's just thinking, how many are left? Who's still here? But she understands that she can't do that math right now. She is too exhausted. She needs to rest. She does not get to rest because immediately somebody tries to start a fire. Because, again, this underscores the point. Katniss knows better than to start a fire in the dark. Katniss would not do something that would make her visible in the middle of the night after having just survived a bloodbath or having just run away from the cornucopia. The people who survived the cornucopia, the careers in particular, have been combing the woods for hours looking for victims. Having a fire is like waving a flag and shouting, "Come and get me!" And Katniss is a stone's throw from what she calls the biggest idiot in the games. And Katniss' reaction is, "Oh my god, how stupid are you?" I know it's cold out here and not everybody has a sleeping bag, but then you grit your teeth and stick it out until dawn. Because Katniss does not understand the degree to which she has been better prepared than anybody else in this arena. And Katniss is sitting here going, this person is a hazard, stupid people are dangerous, this one doesn't have much in the way of weapons while I have this excellent knife. And we can talk more about this later. Katniss's thought process around defenseless people who have been placed in the same situation as she has shifts so much over the course of the trilogy. We watch her go from this mode of, ugh, I'm gonna have to take them out myself if nobody else does it first, to, with Bonnie and Twill in Catching Fire, finding them provisions, giving them her cheese bread, sending them on their way with as much luck and as many resources as she can give to them, even though they are a danger to her. This is also where we figure out that the careers are operating as a pack. They are fighting together as a unit, which doesn't really surprise Katniss, because that's what the career tributes have done in previous years. But what this does is it shows us a recurring theme throughout the series, which is this idea of hypocrisy, that you can't really band together and truly be a unit if your end goal is still going to be to kill one another. This alliance of the careers, this pack that they have formed, by nature is going to be short-lived. And speaking of alliances that were made to be broken or that weren't made at all, Katniss finally hears the last voice from the pack ring out, which is, we're wasting time. I'll go finish her and let's move on. And Katniss almost falls right out of the tree, because that voice belongs to Peeta. More on the boy with the bread in chapter 12, which we will get to in the next video. Thank you so much for joining me on this particular reread, and I will catch you in the next chapter. Bye.